It's the first thing that I ask myself. I think it looks like enjoyment on some level, right? You have to enjoy this experience in order to savor it. You wouldn't exactly savor something you don't enjoy. So maybe there is a certain level of doing the things that you do like doing in the savoring of life. That instead of savoring it like being being very protective of your resources, you savor it by not being protective of your resources. All right, by embracing it fully, by doing the things that you like doing. I read this article yesterday again about people's likelihood to have kids or not, and how even people that didn't end up having kids and then found themselves in their 50s being asked the exact same question answered with the exact same answer, that they do not think they can afford having kids. They do not think they can afford having kids and also afford being able to take care of themselves, after they're out of the workforce. And it's it's a little bit of a shame in some ways, right? Because we as a species, I believe, have become a little bit more capable of savoring our human experience. We've become more aware of the things we enjoy. We've become more aware of what it is we want from life. I think, at least, right? As I was reading into this article, I saw what other people were saying, and then there's this one comment that goes, one of my friends had kids, are so busy that they've been completely alienated from their friends, barely have time to sleep, barely have time for themselves. Why would anybody want that? And yet, a part of me would like to believe that there is something to be savored in that experience as well. But it's one that's a little bit out of reach for many people right now. So, where am I going with this train of thought? I'm going into the direction of like savoring people. Might sound weird to say it that way, right? But if we're going to experience a relative population collapse, if we're going to reach peak humanity, peak population in my lifetime, we're going to have to start valuing, the individual person a little bit more. We're going to have to start savoring life a little bit more, because in that way you're going to be uh, a rarity. I think we're already rare, even though there's billions of us. These billions of us being at all is a pretty rare occurrence. Trying to imagine what it would look like if all 8 billion of us savored the moment collectively. Collectively and suddenly, the moment has been savored. I've said the word savor so many times that it doesn't make sense anymore to me. I'm going to add some heat to my Dynavat and savor this moment more still. I have some Fino too in here of the flowers I grew myself. Mm. Clicky clicky. Hey Joe, it's so nice having you here with me. I want to go do some research quickly. Hmm, nice. I didn't even know about that. uh, yeah. I'm trying to find out if it's legal for me to read a paper from Carl Jung on my live stream on YouTube. I do not really intend on advertising on the outside of my stream that I'm going to be reading, but I would just like to read some of these articles. And I don't know if it is actually legal for me to do so. Did someone have a near-death experience? No, not particularly. I am in pain, a little bit. I did some stretches this morning and might have overdone it just a wee bit. I, I, I've been trying to teach myself the splits. Teach yourself, get myself used to, get into a split. For no particular reason other than I want the extra mobility. Alright, it's very much a want thing. And I have support, to go into the split, so I'm not putting all of my body weight necessarily directly onto it. But still, my hip isn't happy about that whole situation. And then the other side was my lower back slash like lat that I also pulled in the whole stretching experience. And again, there is a certain savoring of life that comes with that as well. That you become very aware of your body and your being aliveness when you're in pain. And I'm not in pain particularly right now, sitting still. And it's not that bad when I am in pain either. But again, it's like an extra layer of awareness. Some more awareness to this experience, allowing us to savor it. You might be able to read an article that references Jung's work. That would probably be fine as long as you cited the journalist. Yeah, let's see. Here it says, reading a paper by Carl Jung on your live stream on YouTube involves a few legal considerations, primarily related to copyright law. Here's a breakdown of what you need to keep in mind. The copyright status. Works by Carl Jung, published before 1924, are generally in the public domain in the United States, meaning you can freely use them without permission. Still under copyright. Works published after 1924 may still be under copyright protection. For these works, you would need to ensure you are not infringing on copyright by reading them without permission. Who am I supposed to ask permission? Fair use, educational or commentary use. If your live stream involves educational purposes, commentary, or criticism, it might fall under fair use. Fair use is a legal doctrine that allows limited use of copyright materials without requiring permission from the right holders. However, fair use is determined on a case-by-case basis, considering factors like the purpose, nature, amount, and effect of the use of the market value of the original work. I think the market value of the original work is zero. Nobody is gonna pay for Carl Jung's work today, right? Like there's no market for it, kind of in my mind. Licensing and permission. If your work is not in the public domain and does not clearly fall under fair use, you may need to seek permission from the copyright holder. Okay, well, I am, in a way, doing commentary, right? Right? Okay, yeah, and then it's just like give proper attribution to the ones who brought that work. That I can do. I think if you sing it, it's considered a parody, and that's fair game. Jovan, I like that. That's pretty funny. Start singing Carl Jung's papers. How far away is it? Like you'll see it a while away actually. Should move this to somewhere where I won't lose it. Oh, okay. I already have one there. That's good. Alright. Let's just start with it, shall we? Collected papers on analytical psychology Included glossary of Jungian terms. Carl Gustav Jung, translator and editor. Constance E. Long. Illustrated and published by E. Kitab Projesi and Cheapest Books. Thank you, Cheapest Books as well. No. Collected papers. Carl Jung, MD, LLD, formerly of the University of Zurich. Authorized translation and edited by Dr. Constance E. Long, Medical Officer, Educational Board, Member Advisory Committee, Insurance Act. Hey, this is 1920. This is 1920 work as well. So it should be. Oh my goodness, it is. I sent a message to one of my friends who was in a photo. Bro, Liam, I don't know if you know, but Dylan is one of my cousins, dude. And I only met Dylan as like a 20-year-old because my mom and his mom had spats, and then we didn't get to meet one another, bro. And then we saw one another at festivals, and then at some sort of family get-together, we got to meet each other again. What a trip. Of course, the universe, this world is a small place. All right. The contents. There seems to be a lot of contents here. You see, we're gonna get a roll, it seems. There are some prefaces. Do we want to read prefaces? The weird Elway. Seth MacFarlane takes that approach as well. Hi all. There are so many videos about Carl Jung on YouTube. I think you're fine. I think I should be fine. It's not necessarily that I'm worried about making a video or having Carl Jung's media in it. It's just like reading. Like I worry about actually just reading something. Are these things just so short? No, these are just still prefaces, I think. Yeah. I think we have to probably read. We have to probably read these. I think it's gonna be a lot of like, almost like fill. It's like we're gonna get speed run through a bunch of different concepts, and maybe that's fine. Maybe that's what we need to do to consciously evolve. Automaticisms, semi-somnambulism, the change of character, relation to the hysterical attack, relationship to the unconscious personality, the unconscious additional creative work. SW shows primary susceptibility of the unconscious. Binet affirms the susceptibility of the hysteric is 50 times greater than that of normal. Cryptomnesia, a second additional creation. Cryptomnesiac picture. What the fuck am I reading? I'm sorry, I'm sort of cursing. Like, I don't know what's happening right now. I feel like I just need to get to proper text. Right? If I don't understand what's happening, good. Okay, here. It is an acknowledged fact that we perceive errors in the work of others more readily than in our own. Leonardo da Vinci said that, apparently. It is an acknowledged fact that we perceive errors in the work of others more readily than in our own. The following papers have been gathered together from various sources and are now available for the first time to English readers. The subject of psychoanalysis is much in evidence and is likely to occupy still more attention in the near future, as the psychological contents of the psychosis and neurosis is more generally appreciated and understood. It is of importance, therefore, that the fundamental writings of both the Venice, Vian, Vians? I don't know how to say that word. And Zurich schools should be accessible for study. Several of Freud's work have already been translated into English. Dr. Jung's Wandlungen and Symbole der Libido was published in America in 1916 under the title of the Psychology of the Unconscious. That work, read in conjunction with these papers, offer a fairly complete picture of the scientific and philosophical standpoint of the leader of the Zurich school. It is the task of the future to judge and expand the findings of both schools and to work at the development of the new psychology, which is still in its infancy. It will be a relief to many students of the unconscious to see it in another aspect than that of the wild beast couched, waiting its hour to spring. Some readers have gathered the view of it from the writings of the Venice schools, a view which is at most that dangerous thing, a half-truth. This is still the preface. Let's just start reading the paper, shall we? Mm-mm-mm-mm. Hmm. This is still author's preface to the second edition, more prefacing. I am grateful to my seniors. This is C. Carl Jung. I am grateful to my serious reviewers and should like here to also express my thanks to Mrs. Harold McCormick for her generous help in the production of this book. Yossi, bro, they're really prefacing. Finally, Chapter 1 on the psychology and pathology of the so-called occult phenomena. Are we gonna start with the occult? Jeez, Carl. Don't you want to give me something a little bit more, friendly to start with? Part of me wants to almost like look through the tables of contents. This is a 520-page book, I'm just realizing. Goodness. I think I found what I want to read first. Page 321. The psychology of dreams. Hitting the road, listening to y'all on the road through the radio. We love Jovan. Using Jovan's car speakers to say those words feels nice. A dream is a psychic structure which at first sight appears to be in striking contrast with conscious thought, because judging by its form and substance, it apparently does not lie within the continuity of development of the conscious contents. It is not integral to it, but is a mere external and apparently accidental occurrence. Its mode of genesis is in itself sufficient to isolate a dream from the other contents of the conscious, for it is a survival of the peculiar psychic activity which takes place during sleep and does not originate in the manifest and clearly logical and emotional continuity of the event experienced. But a careful observer should have no difficulty in discovering that a dream is not entirely severed from the continuity. I don't say that word much, and I should actually. It's a cool word. From the continuity of the conscious. For in almost every dream, certain details are found which have their origins in the impressions, thoughts, or states of mind of one of the preceding days. In so far a certain continuity does exist, albeit a retrograde one. But anyone keenly interested in the dream problem cannot have failed to observe that a dream has also a progressive continuity. In such, an expression be permitted, since dreams occasionally exert a remarkable influence upon the conscious mental life, even of persons who cannot be considered superstitious or particularly abnormal. These occasional after effects are usually seen in a more or less distinct change in the dreamer's frame of mind. It is probably in consequence of this loose connection with the other conscious contents that the recollected dream is so extremely unstable. Many dreams baffle all attempts at reproduction even immediately after waking. Others can only be remembered with doubtful accuracy, and comparatively few can be termed really distinct and clearly reproducible. This peculiar reaction with regard to recollection may be understood by considering the characteristics of the various elements combined in a dream. The combination of ideas in dreams is essentially fantastic. They are linked together in a sequence which, as a rule, is quite foreign to our current way of thinking, and in striking contrast to the logical sequence of ideas which we consider to be a special characteristic of the conscious mental process. It is to this characteristic that dreams owe the common epithet of meaningless. Thinking about Joy, right? Meaningless. Before pronouncing this verdict, we must reflect that dreams and their chains of ideas are something that we do not understand. Such a verdict would therefore be merely a projection of our own non comprehension upon its object, but that would not prevent its own particular and peculiar meaning being inherent in a dream. In spite of the fact that for centuries endeavors have been made to extract a photonic meaning from dreams, Freud's discovery is practically the first successful attempt to find their real significance. His work merits the term scientific because he has evolved a technique which not only he, but many other investigators also assert achieves its objective, namely, the understanding of the meaning of the dream. This meaning is not identical with the one which the manifest dream content seems to indicate. This is not the place for a critical discussion of Freud's psychology of dreams, but I will try to give a brief summary of what may be regarded as more or less established facts of dream psychology today. And this was written in the 1920s, right? So that's also something to take into consideration. The first question we must discuss is whence do we deduce the justification for attributing to dreams any other significance than the one indicated in the unsatisfying fragmentary meaning of the manifest dream content. As regards this point, a particularly weighty argument is the fact that Freud discovered the hidden meaning of dreams by emeric and not deductive methods. A further argument in favor of a possible hidden, as opposed to the manifest meaning of dreams, is obtained by comparing dream fantasies with other fantasies, daydreams, and the like, in one and the same individual, comparing them with the others in one and the same individual, as in me or you. It is not difficult to conceive that such day fantasies may not merely be a superstition, may not merely be a superficial concrete meaning, but also a deeper psychological meaning. It is solely on account of the brevity that I must impose upon myself that I do not submit materials in proof of this. But I should like to point out that what may be said about the meaning of fantasies is well illustrated by an old and a widely diffused type of imaginary story, of which Aesop's fables are typically examples. That's kind of trippy. That's kind of melting my brain right now. And it's even spelled with that interesting, look at that, Aesop. Aesop's fables. There's a rapper called Aesop Rock. He's pretty cool. Jovan is the one who told me about him. And this is just taking me there now. It's well illustrated by an old and wildly diffuse type of imaginative story, of which Aesop's fables are typically examples, wherein, for instance, the story is some objectively impossible fantasy about the deeds of a lion and an ass. The concrete superficial meaning of the fable is an impossible phantasm, but the hidden moral meaning is plain upon reflection. It is characteristic that children are pleased and satisfied with the exoteric meaning of the story. However, the best argument for the existence of a hidden meaning in dreams is provided by conscientious application of the technical procedure to solve the manifest dream content. This brings us to our second main point, the question of analytic procedure. Here again, I desire neither to defend nor to criticize Freud's views or discoveries, but rather to confine myself to what seem to me to be firmly established facts. The fact that a dream is a psychic structure. It does not give us the slightest ground for assuming that it obeys laws and designs other than those applicable to any other psychic structure. According to the maxim, am I going to try and read this maxim? Principia explicandi proter necessitatem non sin multiplicanda. We have to treat dreams and in analysis just as any other psychic structure, until experience teaches us some better way. We know that every psychic construction considered from the standpoint of causality is the resultant of previous psychic contents. Furthermore, we know also that every psychic structure, considered from the standpoint of finality, has its own peculiar meaning and purpose in the actual psychic process. This standard must also be applied to dreams. When therefore we seek a psychological explanation of a dream, we must first know what were the preceding experiences out of which it is combined. We must trace the antecedents of every element in the dream picture. For example, some of dreams that he is walking in a street, a child is running in front of him, who is suddenly run over by a motor car. We will trace the antecedents of this dream picture with the aid of the dreamer's recollection. He recognizes the street as one down which he had walked on the previous day. The child he acknowledges as his brother's child, whom he had seen on the previous evening when visiting his brother. The motor accident reminded him of an accident that had occurred a few days before, but of which he had only read an account in the newspaper. Popular opinion is known to be satisfied with this kind of explanation. People say, "Oh, that is why I dreamt such and such a thing." Obviously, this explanation is absolutely unsatisfactory from a scientific standpoint. The dreamer walked down many streets on the previous days. Why was this particular one selected? He had read about several accidents. Why did he select just one? The mere disclosure of an it's like an antidote, but they're using an antecedent, is by no means sufficient, for a plausible determination of the dream presentation can only be obtained from the competition of various detriments. The collection of additional material proceeds according to the principle of recollection that has been called the association method. The result, as will easily be understood, is the admission of a mass of multifarious and quite heterogeneous material, having apparently nothing in common but the fact of its evident association connection with the dream's contents, since it has been reproduced by means of this content. In other words, people assume the dream must have been created by the contents, because after they've had the dream, they can refer to the contents and be like, yo, because I experienced such and such, now I have such and such dream. But that's not a scientific answer, it's unsatisfactory. How far the collection of such material should go is an important question from the technical point of view, since the entire psychic content of a life may be ultimately disclosed from any single starting point. Theoretically, the whole previous life experience might be found in every dream. Yeah. But we only need to assemble just so many materials as to as is absolutely necessary in order to comprehend the dream's meaning. The limitation of the material is obviously an arbitrary proceeding, according to the principle of Kant's, thereby to comprehend is to perceive to the extent necessary for our purpose. For instance, when undertaking a survey of the causes of the French Revolution, we could, in amassing our material, include not only the history of the medieval France, but also that of Roman Greece, which certainly would not be necessary for our purpose, since we can comprehend the historical genesis of the revolution from much more limited material. Except for the aforesaid arbitrary limitation, the collection of materials lies outside the investigator's discretion. The material gathered, the material gathered must be applied to the examination of the historical or an empirical scientific material. The method is an essentially comparative one that obviously cannot be applied automatically, but is largely dependent upon the skill and aim of the investigator. When a psychological fact has to be explained, it must be remembered that psychological data necessitate a twofold point of view, namely that of causality and that of finality. I use the word finality intentionally in order to avoid confusion with the idea of teleology. I use finality to denote immanent psychological teleology. Insofar as we apply the viewpoint of causality to the material that has been associated with the dream, we reduce the manifest dream content to certain fundamental tendencies or ideas. These are as one would expect, are elementary and universal in character. For instance, a young patient dreams as follows: I am standing in a strange garden and pluck an apple from a tree. I look around cautiously to make sure no one sees me. I'm gonna take a moment, think about that, think about shame, think about wanting to save your life, thinking about someone else potentially taking your life because you're trying to save her life by picking an apple. My mom had a near-death experience or death experience of no heartbeat for 3 minutes. It was a year and a half ago, and she talks about the experience so much. It must have changed her. Did it change how she interacted with you? Experiences change lives. Her perspective on her whole life shifted. Astronauts talk about something similar when they see the whole world. Yeah, she's thankful she was given a second chance to live, but she is now excited to cross over. She is no longer afraid to be dead. She claims it was the most peaceful thing. Yeah, like this is my word for it. What I like to say to people, because I've also, I believe at the very least, been at death's door. And that peace is something that is there, right? But there's a peace that arises almost from a place of understanding, right? How you might be stressed and tense when you don't know what's going to happen next. And then someone can set you at ease by being like, hey, friend, we're going to do this. And then after we're done doing this, we're going to do that. So don't you worry. You just hang in there. Things will happen any second now, right? Having a near-death experience, kind of, for me at least, was like that, where it sets you at ease. It's like, oh, okay, right? This is not an encouragement to die by any means. You still have a lot of living to do. You're here to live after all. But you shouldn't be afraid of death, right? In the same way that you in your dream state shouldn't be afraid to wake up again. Sure, it might suck, might kind of suck. Maybe you're having the best dream ever and you don't want to wake up. But you shouldn't be afraid of waking up. Shouldn't be afraid of going to sleep. For instance, a young patient dreams as follows. I'm standing in a strange garden and pluck an apple from a tree. I look around curiously to make sure no one sees me. The associated dream material is a memory of having once, when a boy, plucked a couple of pears surreptitiously from another person's garden. The feeling of having a bad conscience, which is a prominent feature of the dream, reminds him of a situation he experienced the previous day. He met a young lady in the street, a casual acquaintance, and exchanged a few words with her. At that moment, a gentleman passed whom he knew, whereupon our patient was suddenly seized with a curious feeling of embarrassment, as if he had done something wrong. He associated the apple with the scene in paradise, together with the fact that he had never really understood why the eating of forbidden fruit should have been fraught with such dire consequences for our first parents. This had always made him feel angry. It seemed to him an unjust act of God, for God had made men as they were, with all their curiosity and greed. I'm relating to this kid a lot. You see, this kid is on a level. Another association was that something his father had punished him for, certainly, things in a way that seems to him incomprehensible. The worst punishment had been bestowed after he had secretly watched girls bathing. I retract my previous statement. That led up to the confession that he had recently begun a love affair with a housemaid, but had not yet carried it through to a conclusion. On the day before the dream, he had a rendezvous with her. Upon reviewing this material, we see that the dream contains a very transparent reference to the last named incident. The connecting associative material shows that the apple episode is palpably meant for an erotic scene. For various other reasons too, it may be considered extremely probable that this experience of the previous day is operative even in this dream. In the dream, the young man plucks the apple of the paradise, which in reality has not yet plucked. The remainder of the material associated with the dream is concerned with another experience of the previous day, namely, with the particular feeling of a bad conscience, which seized the dreamer when he was talking to his casual lady acquaintance. This again was connected with the fall of a man in paradise, and finally with an erotic misdemeanor of his childhood, for which his father had punished him severely. All these associations are linked together by the idea of guilt. In the first place, we will consider the material from Freud's viewpoint of causality. In other words, we will interpret it, to use Freud's expression. A wish has been left unfulfilled from the day before the dream. In the dream, this wish is realized by the symbolical apple scene. But why is this realization disguised and hidden under a symbolic image instead of being expressed in a distinctly sexual way? Freud would refer to this unmistakable sense of guilt shown up by the material and say the mortality that has been inculcated in the young man from childhood is bent on repressing such wishes, and to that end brands the natural cravings as immoral and reprehensible. The suppressed immoral thought can therefore only achieve expression by means of a symbol, as these thoughts are incompatible with the moral contents of the conscious ego, a psychic factor adopted by Freud called the censor, prevents this wish from passing undisguised into consciousness. Reviewing the dream from the standpoint of finality, which I contrast with that of Freud, does not, as I wish to establish explicitly, involve a denial of the dream's cause, but rather a different interpretation of the associative material collected around the dream. The material fact remains the same, but the standard by which they are measured is altered. The question may be formulated simply as follows: that is this dream purpose? What should it affect? This question, these questions are not arbitrary, and as such as they may be applied to every psychic activity. Everywhere the question of why and wherefore may be raised. It is clear that the material added to the dream to the previous day erotic experience chiefly emphasizes the sense of guilt in the erotic act. The same association has already been shown to be operative in another experience of the previous day, in the meeting with his casual lady acquaintance, when the feelings of a bad conscience was automatically and inexplicably aroused, as if, in that instance too, the young man had done something wrong. This experience also plays a part in the dream, which is even intensified by the association of additional appropriate material. The erotic experience of the day before being depicted by the story of the fall, which was followed by such a severe punishment. I maintain that there exists in the dreamer an unconscious propensity or tendency to conceive his erotic experiences as guilty. It is most characteristic that the association of the fall of man should ensue, the young man having never really grasped why the punishment should have been so drastic. This association throws light upon the reasons why the dreamers did not think simply, I am doing what is not right. Obviously, he does not know that he might condemn his own conduct as morally wrong. Yet this is actually the case. His unconscious belief is that his conduct does not matter in the least morally, as all his friends were acting in the same way. Besides, for other reasons too, is unable to understand why a fuss should be made about it nonetheless. Whether this dream should be considered full or void of meaning depends upon a very important question: whether the standpoint of morality handed down to us through the ages by our forefathers is held to be full or void of meaning. I do not wish to wander off into philosophical discussion of this question, but would merely observe that mankind must obviously have had very strong reasons for devising this morality. Otherwise, it would be truly incomprehensible why such restraint should be imposed upon one of man's strongest cravings. If we attach due value to this fact, we are bound to pronounce this dream to be full of meaning, for it reveals to the young man the necessity of facing his erotic conduct boldly from the point of view of morality. Primitive races have in some respects extremely strict legislation concerning sexuality. This fact proves that sexual morality is not to be neglected facet in the soul's higher functions, but deserves to be taken fully into account. In the case in question, it should be added that the young man, influenced by his friend's example, somewhat thoughtlessly let himself be guided exclusively by his erotic cravings, unmindful of the fact that man is a morally responsible being and must perforce submit, voluntary or involuntary, to a morality that he himself has created. Woo! In this dream, we can discern a compensating function of the unconscious consisting in the fact that those thoughts, propensities, and tendencies of a human personality, which in conscious life are too seldom recognized, come spontaneously into action in the sleeping state when, to a large extent, the conscious process is disconnected. The question might certainly be raised of what use is this to the dreamer if he does not understand the dream. To this I must remark that to understand is not an exclusive intellectual process. For as experience proves, man may be influenced, nay, even very effectually convinced, by innumerable things of which he has no intellectual understanding. I will merely remind my readers of the efficacy of religious symbols. Ew, Carl Jung taking out the glass, pointing the guns. The example given above might suggest the thought that the functions of dreams is a distinctly moral one. Such it appears to be in the case. Such it appears to be in this case. But if we recall the formula according to which dreams contain the subliminal materials of a given moment, we cannot speak simply of a moral function. For it is worthy of note the dreams of these persons whose actions are morally unexceptionable bring materials to light that might well be characterized as immoral in the current meaning of that term. Thus, it is significant that St. Augustine was glad that God did not hold him responsible for his dreams. The unconscious is the unknown of a given moment. Therefore, it is not surprising that all those aspects that are essential for a totally different point of view should be added by dreams to the conscious psychological factors of a given moment. It is evident that this function of dreams signifies a psychological adjustment, a comprehension essential for properly balanced action. In the conscious process of reflection, it is indispensable that so far as possible, we should realize all the aspects and consequences of a problem in order to find the right solution. This process is continued automatically in the more or less conscious, more or less unconscious state of sleep, wherever, as our previous experience seemed to show, all those other points of view occur to the dreamer, at least by way of illusion, that during the day were underestimated or even totally ignored. In other words, were comparatively unconscious. As regard the much discussed symbolism of dreams, the value attached to it varies according to whether the standpoint of causality or finality is adopted. According to Freud's causal viewpoint, it proceeds from a craving for the suppressed dream wish. This craving is always somewhat simple and primitive, and is able to disguise itself under manifold forms. For instance, the young man in question might just as well have dreamt that he had to open a door with a key, or that he had to travel by airplane, or that he was kissing his mother. For from the standpoint, all those things would have had the same meaning. In this way, the typical adherents of Freud's school would have come to the point of interpreting, to give a gross instance, almost all long objects in dreams as phallic symbols. Right, the key into the door, the airplane, the kissing your own mom. Freud was on a trip. Uh, But from the viewpoint of finality, the viewpoint that I try to take on as well, right? I try. I think it's a little bit of both, but I try a little bit more finality. From the viewpoint of finality, the various dream pictures have each their own particular value. For instance, if the young man, instead of dreaming of the apple scene, had dreamed he had opened a door with a key, the altered dream picture would have furnished associative material of an essentially different character. That again would have resulted in the conscious situation being supplemented by association of a totally different kind from those connected with the apple scene. From this point of view, it is the diversity of the dream's mode of expression that is full of meaning, and not the uniformity in its significance. The causal viewpoint tends by its very nature towards uniformity of meaning, that is, towards a fixed significance of symbols. On the other hand, the final viewpoint perceives in an altered dream picture the expression of an altered psychological situation. It recognizes no fixed meaning of symbols. From this standpoint, all the dream pictures are important in themselves, each one having a special significance of its own, to which it owes its inclusion in the dream. Keeping to our previous example, we see that from the standpoint of finality, the symbol in this dream is approximately equivalent to a parable. It does not conceal, but it teaches. The apple scene recalls vividly the sense of guilt, at the same time disguising the real deed of our first parents. It is obvious we reach very dissimilar interpretations of the meaning of the dream according to the point of view adopted. The question now arises, which is better or the truer version? After all, for us therapeutes, it is a practical and not a merely theoretical necessity that leads us to seek some comprehension on the meaning of dreams. In treating our patients, we must be practical in the reasons that we endeavor to lay hold on any means that will enable us to train them effectually. It should be quite evident from the foregoing example that the material associated with the dream has opened up a question calculated to make many matters clear to the young man, which hitherto he has heedlessly overlooked. But by disregarding these things, he was really overlooking something in himself, for he possesses a moral standard and a moral need just like any other man. By trying to live without taking this fact into consideration, his life is one-sided and incomplete, so to say, incoordinate, with the same consequence for the psychological life as a one-sided and incomplete diet would have for the physical. In order to develop a person's individuality and the independence to the uttermost, we need to bring to fruition all those functions that have hitherto attained. I don't know what hitherto attained but little conscious development or none at all. In order to achieve this aim, we must, for therapeutic reasons, enter into all of those unconscious aspects of things brought forward by the dream material. This makes it abundantly clear that the viewpoint of finality is singularly important as an aid to the practical development of the individual. The viewpoint of causality is obviously more in accord with scientific spirit in our time, but it is strictly causalistic reasoning. Such may be said for Freud's view as a scientific experimentation of dream psychology. But I must dispute its completedness, for the psyche cannot be conceived merely from the casual and causal aspect, but necessitates also a final viewpoint. Only a combination of both points of view, which has not yet been attained to the satisfaction of the scientific mind, owing to great difficulties both of a practical and theoretical nature, can give us a more complete conception of the essence of dreams. That is basically it. But there is like a few more paragraphs and then we're done, for now at least. I would like to treat briefly of some further problems of dream psychology that border on the general discussions of dreams. Firstly, as to the classification of dreams, I do not wish to overestimate either the practical or theoretical significance of this question. I investigated yearly some 1,500 to 2,000 dreams, and this experience enables me to state that typical dreams actually do exist, but they are not very frequent. And from the point of view of finality, they lose much of the importance which is attached to them as a result of the fixed significance of symbols according to the casual viewpoint. It seems to me that the typical themes of dreams are of far greater importance, for they permit a comparison with these themes of mythology. Many of these mythological themes, in the study of which Probenius has rendered notable service, as also found in dreams, often with precisely the same significance. Unfortunately, the limited time at my disposal does not permit me to lay detailed materials before you. This has been done elsewhere. But I desire to emphasize the fact that comparison of the typical themes of dreams with those of mythology obviously suggests the idea, already put forward by Nietzsche, that form a phylogenetic point of view. Dream thought should be conceived as an older form of thought. That's pretty cool. Instead of multiplying examples and explanation of my meaning, I will briefly refer to our specimen dream. As you remember, the dream introduced the apple scene as a typical representation of erotic guilt. The gist of its purport is, I am doing wrong in acting like this. But it is characteristic that a dream never expresses itself in a logically abstract way, but always in the language of a parable or simile. This peculiarity is also a characteristic feature of primitive languages, whose flowery idioms always strike us. If you call to mind the writings of ancient literature, like the language of simile in the Bible, you will find that what nowadays is expressed by means of abstract expression could then only be expressed by means of simile. Even such a philosopher as Plato did not disdain to express certain fundamental ideas by means of concrete simile. Just as the body bears traces of its phylogenetic development, so also does the human mind. There is therefore nothing surprising in the possibility of allegories of our dreams being a survival of archaic modes of thought. The theft of the apple, in our example, is a typical theme of dreams, often reoccurring with various modifications. It is also a well-known theme in mythology, and is found not only in the story of Garden of Eden, but in numerous myths and fables of all ages and climes. Climes? There's no B. Climes. It is one of those universally human symbols which can reappear in anyone at any time. Thus, dream psychology opens up a way to a general comparative psychology, from which we hope to attain the same sort of understanding of the development and structure of the human soul, as comparative anatomy has given us concerning the human body. There we go. That was pretty cool. I feel like my brain has more information in it now. Like that whole apple fractal, that made me think a lot. All right. These stream topics is about consciously evolving, and today's stream topic is specifically about savoring life, savoring the apple instead of feeling guilt over it. I'm particularly thinking about that line of we are beholden to our own morality, right? That you are the one that sets up your morality. And if you do not act by your morality, you find yourself falling short. There's no falling short technically. It's like a lensing thing. Man, I'm gonna have to sit and think about that one for a bit. Mm-mm-mm. That feeling is so hard to explain. It's not bad. I live that way, untethered. It's a different perspective to stay for the wonder of the world I live in instead of rote obligation. Exactly. People are so hesitant on stopping, seeing a bright light, seeing loved ones who have passed before you. I'm careful who I share with, out of respect and out of fear, I guess. At least in this space, you will not be, dream crazy for it. Like we literally just talked about dreams, and like the amount of depth that goes into that. The near-death experience probably would be akin to like that kind of depth as well. Humans have a drive for self-preservation. I think it's little unsettling to others to meet someone who doesn't have that. I have flat lines a couple of times throughout my life. It changes the perspective, that's for sure. Your first sentiment sounds freeing, Sam. Staying for wonder rather than rote obligation. After dying and returning, we start to appreciate the tiniest of miracles that were previously overlooked. You literally see things that were there the whole time, and then suddenly now you notice them. Like it is kind of wild. Like we're blind to a lot in our lives, unfortunately. I hope you're all well. I had a wild night last night. I had to call the police because my neighbors were beating the shit out of each other. Turns out they were running a brothel from their apartment. That is that is a wild night. Agreed. Agreed, Fit. I think you can wear that badge proudly. I'm conflicted. I'm not thankful she died and had to go through being defibrillated, but it has given her peace and calmed her fears, anxiety, and her fears and anxiety. So in a different way, I'm grateful she got to experience it. Yeah, like this is very insensitive, Heather, and I know that, but like a trial run on death, right? Like she got to have like the trial, and now she's like, yeah, this is fine, I can go for the full suite. The trial was not that bad. The world gets much harder to navigate when you come back. The spirit is refreshed and renewed, stronger and wiser, but the expectations of the world look quite different when they once did. Yeah, the expectations you have of yourself, right, and the expectations the world have of you, and how those clash when you come back from an experience like that. Mm, it's kind of interesting. It's a bunch of near death experience videos have been showing up for me on YouTube. The topic is not something I've ever searched on, but maybe my other searches on consciousness have caused those to come up. That makes sense. It is a interesting thing to look at, right? If you're curious about consciousness, you cannot help but be curious about dying as well, right? They are kind of divinely linked. I don't think consciousness goes away when we die. At least that's what I've come to believe. No, 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 no. I had no idea. Glad you're still with us, and thankful you took something positive from the experiences, because I'm sure it's not easy. Please forgive my rudeness. Good morning. You're not rude, bro. You're here with us. It's nice having you. Sending you blessings. Love to you too, Nancy, again. It's kind of cool that she had the experience because she doesn't seem to have worries about passing from this life. I think it's the not knowing that freaks a lot of people out. Agreed. We are terrified of the unknown. There is a peace that comes from knowing. Most problems and headaches just fade away. New problems arise, but the problems are more of a social nature. People talk about things that are no longer significant to his spirit who has been in both places. A welcome struggle. Yeah, there is this level of kind of dissociation where it's almost like you are existing on different planes of existence. But it's fine, right? We're still all eating food and stuff, so in that way we can still have shared experiences. Have you changed cognitively, Joe? Struggled with mood or with relationships or with communication in general with respect to your privacy? The statement wasn't meant to be dismissive. It was an attempt to let you better understand what Mama was going through. After it first happened, I went radio silent. I stopped talking to people and I was very guarded. Every religious thought and belief got turned upside down for me. Many people have had that same reaction. Yeah, yeah, that's also like a very real part of it. Mm. Everything looks and feels different. No worries, Joe. Text tone, sarcasm, communication is nuanced. There are a few things that upset or offend me, plus. I don't mind me asking, beliefs were changed because you did not feel their truth? Or you did? I'm guessing the probably not. It's the way I interpret it. If you are analytical by nature, and then the entire world that you measure against suddenly looks different, religion feels different, faces change, it messes with you. I'm still a hermit for the most part. I like being alone with God more than anything. I have a new appreciation for everything, though. I have a new understanding of this experience. I'm grateful that I know, and I'm also envious of the ones that are still seeking. I mean, I don't think that's true, bro. I think you're again envious of what you think their experience is from the perspective of having had the experience, right? So it's like a type of grass is greener on the other side kind of thing. Having having the understanding of the thing you are allows you to savor life. At least that's what I believe. All right, I woke up this morning. I sent love into the world, answering my messages. And then I sat down and I listened to music. And I appreciated the trees. I got up and danced a little bit. I exercised, did some yoga. And I appreciated being able to savor life like that for a little bit because I know I'm gonna get a little bit more busy again soon. I think we can be multiple things. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say. You can be multiple things, bro. You can be the one still seeking as well. Maybe I'm just envious of how I felt when I was still seeking. Yeah, yeah. That could be it. Right? Because again, it's an idea. It's an idea. Seeking. Am I still seeking something? I'm just seeking more. I'm not seeking something specific. I'm just seeking more. Right? Like the scale of my ideas and ambition feels like it's out of sync with the scale of my action. And I guess they are kind of linked, right? I do not have the skills right now to do the things that my ambitions want to. So I need to take it small steps at a time. That wasn't worded correctly. I'm always seeking and searching and discovering new things. My life is full of wonder. Perhaps I'm just referencing a time of innocence. A time of innocence. You were innocent? When? When were you innocent? Maybe it's just me, but I don't think I was ever innocent. Right? And I'm not trying to say I'm evil or I'm actively trying to, go against my own moral code. But I'm trying to live max hedonism. But I don't know if children are good people. You know, I think you have to make yourself a good person by considering the implications of being one. Consider the implications of other people being ones, right? You become a good person, you aren't a good person. you might you might have less innocence, but you have more awareness, right? And I think that awareness is what allows you to be innocent. Does that make sense? Well, I'm happy that you're laughing, bro. I think you get what I'm saying. On a happier note, I enrolled in an animation course yesterday before the whole brothel thing happened. Kind of a bucket list course that I thought I'd never get to. Bless fit. That's awesome, friend. Yeah, gain those skills. We were just talking about that actually. I'm super happy for you, man. Or ma'am. Hey, I'm happy for you, friend. So I look forward to the crudely animated cartoon versions of you all the coming months. I need the practice. Fit, are you going to be using Blender? How are you going to be animating? Do let me know. Because maybe if you get good enough, alright, I'll give you more practice. You want even more practice? You want more work, Fit? Melt says. A time of ignorance, not of innocence. Okay, yeah. Love is true. That's awesome. I think so. Learning how to animate things. I'm still curious about the software. If it's gonna be drawing, phew, phew. I don't know if I have the patience. I'm going to add some more heat to this tiny bath of mine. I'm not sure we'll be using yet, but I'll let you know when I get the full itinerary. Okay, cool. I just want you to have fun, dear friend. Make some cool stuff. I think one of the homies is taking out the trash. Thank you! Sound gets directed in that way. Probably doesn't hear me. I'll say thank you again later. When is the next event? Technically only in October. But I signed up to be a, a content manager. I'm in the process of registering my business. I've already signed the papers. And then hopefully, when the business is now officially, registered, I'll be able to quote directly from our business account my new client. And then we can have some money start flowing into the company. At least that's the plan. So that's gonna be the thing that I need to probably be focusing on. I'm gonna be editing, slapping content. What new projects are we going to see? I don't know if you'd want to see. Like again, it's gonna be a little bit more of a different vibe. Right now, I'm still kind of like waiting for another client. Bloom is still the project, and I've shown you some of the Bloom work. The two different infinity zooms, basically going different directions, and then sound reactivity. I did technically do some projects yesterday where I color reactivity one of my flowers as I was reading the poem out loud, but it doesn't look good enough to me, so I didn't go through with it. And then you can come on a business visa, company man. Yeah, that is part of the plan, right? Having a being a company owner. Like I technically am, right? Technically, neck tech recrease. Oh man, my freaking business account doesn't want to open on this device. There's some sort of security thing happening where it's like, and it's pissing me off. But maybe I can show you this. Hmm. No. Yeah, I can't open the emails here. I literally had to. I sent them an email to be like, what the fuck? Why are you like this? I'm even paying for that business account. And that's the only account that doesn't work, right? Like all my other free accounts work perfectly, but the one I pay for doesn't. Owner, entrepreneur, creator, artist, they should give you a visa. You know, unfortunately, I still need more assets, right? I think that's the thing that I'll finally need is I need the company, and then I need a bank account attached to that company that has a lot of money in it, and then I need assets that I'm paying for actively. Like I need to have like debt on my name or something like that. I think those are like the beats I have to hit for your country to consider me coming to yours. Like it's like I have to look like I have responsibilities, kind of vibe. It's ridiculous. People come here on inflated rafts and mule-drawn carts all the time. I'm pretty sure none of them applied for a visa. Yeah, this is true, but if I had to get in an inflatable raft on my way to America, I would be paddling for like 6 months, you know. And I don't think I'd be able to get 6 months worth of food on my little raft, so I'll die at sea. Maybe I can have like I can have like half the journey's food, right? Like high density proteins and fats, and then by like that like 1 month mark, I have no more food left, and then I like go into like starvation mode and keep rowing to the shore. Like I will be very scared. You can feed me. Like unfortunately, the only way for me really to get to America is by plane, and they will not let you on it if you do not have a visa. So yeah, but think about how swole you'll get after a year of half a year of rowing. Yeah, if I had all the calories I needed, I'd get pretty swole. Otherwise, I'd probably disintegrate, melt into nothingness. I'm gonna pull a card. I had fun with you, friends. It's time to say goodbye. Ooh. Melty, I'm building a boat. It probably won't be able to travel the Atlantic Ocean, but that doesn't mean we won't try, bro. I'm okay. I'm a very patient person. I don't seem like it, and I don't even believe it, but I actually am a very patient person. All right. I had this conversation with John on our mushroom trip Friday night, where it really is about just taking care of yourself day to day. There is technology coming, and all you really have to do is take care of yourself day to day. And if you continue doing that, the day will come where this environment you are a part of will cease attacking you and will start supporting you. Of course, this is the card I pull as I say that. Divine Mother. We are literally in an environment we call Mother Earth. You would look like Dwayne the Melt Johnson. Dwayne the Melt Johnson. I mean, I don't have, Dwayne the Rock Johnson's length or shoulder width, but I appreciate it. I have been told that I would take well to steroids. Right? Was a strange thing to be told, but people were like, "But oh, you would look great on steroids." I'm like, "Thanks." Or should I say thanks instead of thanks, kind of thing? Should you say thanks? Uh, Given that guy also wanted to sell me steroids, so maybe he was just being a good businessman. Oh, no, 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 no. Thanks for playing with me today. You are one of the most beautiful spirits I've encountered. I love and appreciate you, brother. Sits your day to reflect upon a higher frequency. I am but one of many. One of you, dear Joe. There are billions of us on this planet. I am just grateful to be given the opportunity to do this work. Meltrock, Mel, Meltrock John Moore. Meltrock John Moore. That's it. I'll have it stamped on my fake visa. How does one react to being told you take well to steroids, right, Fit? Right? I said thanks. And then like backed away slowly. Kind of vibes. It does check out. Right? I do have the infrastructure to put on more. But I don't want to put that stuff in my body. I don't want to put that stuff in my bodies. Surely for the fact that it's not accurate. You are you are a system of balance, right? And when you put things into your body like that, specifically like that, your body stops producing the ones you have, and that's very not good, right? Then you become dependent on something. Then I have to like a crutch. I have to keep walking around with little vials and syringes and needles. That sounds like hell no. I don't want to do any of that shit. So I'm just not gonna. Is that human growth hormone version of staff and clothing shop says that looks great on you. Yeah, literally staff and clothing shops. I mean, like he was staff at the gym, so he was kind of like in that fractal as well. Steroids look like you have decided to inject styrofoam into your blood. That junk can't be good for you. It's not. It's unfortunately not, right? Because again, it makes your heart grow as well. That's also the one thing. Like the lack of testosterone, like your parts of you shrink, let's say. The parts of you that produce testosterone basically shut down. And like a factory, you know, shutting down, suddenly there's no more activity in there and it gets demolished. So that's the one thing. And then the fact that your heart grows, the fact that it's super bad for your skin. I already am sometimes insecure about having bad skin health. If I had to do steroids, that would get exponentially worse as well. So it's so many great reasons not to do steroids. Pro steroids look like Goku. Cons, and it's just like balloons under the skin, Joe. I mean, technically you don't have to look like that. You don't have to look like you have balloons under your skin. We watched The Fall Guy last night. And this is gonna be a little bit much, and I'm sorry, but let's see. I want them to. I don't want to even articulate these words out loud because it's so cringe. So I'm just not going to. I'll have Google judge me instead. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Yeah, but like there was a moment with like Ryan Gosling where I was like, yeah, I want to get to that point. I want to get to the point where I like, and again, like like there's a lot of people using steroids right now, kind of vibes. Like a lot of people. You don't have to look like the balloons stretching your skin 1 millimeter thin. You don't have to look like that. Exactly, man. The pros and cons is way out of balance for me to mess with it. Exactly. Look like Goku. That's like literally the goal, bro. Literally, I was exposed to Goku when I was 5 years old, and ever since, bro, it has been so cool to me to be Jacobo Bacco, right? To be screaming, "Rah!" and then have fire around you and have your hair all the way up. That's been like my ideal. That's been my ideal body type. You know, I scream, I'm super jacked. There's fire around me, and my hair is in every direction. You know, and until I reach that, never gonna be satisfied. I'm joking, of course. I'm laying it on thick, but it is it is definitely and thinking about the whole fractal of psychology, right? It's definitely a part of my psychology, and it's such a joke that I'm literally modeling how I want to look against like freaking anime drawings, right? Of a and I'm this is me again being mean, but a bunch of nerds, me included, right? I am one of the nerds. Bunch of nerds drawing jack dudes, right? Like none of the nerds look like that, but they're drawing these super jack dudes. And then one of the nerds sees those jack dudes and like, this is realistic body image to have. Is realistic. Dr. Seuss taught me that a growing heart is a good thing, so I'm confused. Unfortunately, not. Is there a situation where steroids are good or at least not negative on the body? Yes. If you are aging, if you are getting close to, like your prime, like for me, your prime is like after you have finished all of your work in life. You're in your 60s, right? Then it could actually help a lot doing some steroids because your body is literally not producing that much anymore. So one of the things that I'm like apprehensive of using this compound is because my body would stop producing my own testosterone, right? Which means I'd be beholden on this chemical for as long as I have to continue living. But if I'm already 75 and now my natural testosterone production is 20% of what it used to be when I was in my 20s, now I can supplement with patches or with a tablet or whatever my testosterone and bring it back up to the levels I had when I was in my 20s. And that would drastically improve my quality of life as a 75-year-old man. But I'll leave it for 75-year-old me, right? I'll probably not need to if things go the way I want them to, but let's see. So there are, and even for women as well, actually, Heather, like it can help with libido and like counterbalancing the amount of estrogen your body produces. So it helps for women too. Exactly, Melty. I've always thought that it was poison. Recovering for surgery, also another useful case. Yeah, only bad when they're abused. Are there different kinds of steroids? There are plenty of different kinds. Some of them stronger, some of them with different pathways, some of them completely different compounds. Like HGH is human growth hormone, not exactly a steroid, but still kind of achieves some of the same results. I only started watching Dragon Ball Z this year, so it caught me off guard. Okay, felt close to home kind of vibes. Medically, if you have a weak system and need more strength to operate the lungs and heart, I understand it. but that is a small percentage of the uses, true. Like prednisone versus the injectable kind, anabolic, I think. Yeah, like this. I'm not a steroid expert, unfortunately. You know, I haven't had all of that experience. Like you'll, if you want to know, Google is going to be your friend or a doctor probably. If you want to, apply any of that to yourself. Steroids are also useful when someone is having anaphylactic shock. Also true. Medically prescribed steroids weren't what I was talking about. True. Yeah. Like, and that's one of the big problems with like the steroid industry as well, is that people are selling the equivalent of snake oil, right? Like selling dirty stuff to people, and people are just putting that stuff in their veins. Like they don't know where it's coming from, kind of vibes. But we're not talking about steroids. We're talking about Divine Mother, and the Divine Mother wouldn't want you putting steroids in your arms. So you don't put steroids in your arms, Mel. Put steroids in your ass. That sounds worse. Why did you make me say that? That's medical love is true. Celebration and activation. Here we celebrate the Divine Mother. She is the divine matrix who abides in the heart of every being. She champions compassion, compels forgiveness. Divine Mother is a vital, dynamic, and powerful reality, honored by cultures around the planet, named Gaia, Pachamama, Mother Mary, Kuan Yin, and Queen Tara, to name just a few. A modern day personification of this vitality is Indian born humanitarian Amachi, regarded by many as the incarnation of Divine Mother, and is often referred to as the Hugging Saint. She has spent most of the past 25 years celebrating life by hugging anyone who approaches her. Choosing this card celebrates the divine feminine aspect of God within you and asks you to activate your direct knowledge of the self as pure, luminous, all-pervading non-duality. This remembrance set in motion the awareness that there is no separation, that you are an integral part of spirit. Take a few moments from your day to celebrate your recognition of oneness with spirit, to appreciate, to savor life, right? Know that as you activate this awareness, you help bring about greater understanding that we as human beings are not separate, but rather interconnected and one with all of creation. Thank Divine Mother for your celebration of oneness. Pachamama, the Lady of the Mountain. The lady that's the mountain. The rivers are her children. The Divine Mother is all about them sweet gains, bruh. It's true. She gives all of the food for you to get those sweet gains. But I don't think she wants you to, extract testosterone from bull testicles and put it in yourself. Right? 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 Love is true. I thank you, friends, for joining me. Let's see. Who's gonna be first? Today we talked about savoring life. Can you please give me a Shan message that goes into savoring life as a topic? It just saves it as saving life, not savoring. Savoring. I'm not sure that I'll be using yet. I'll let you know as soon as I get the full out. There we go. Have a good evening, everyone. 'Twas nice hanging as always. Love is true. Hugs and Jenny Fruit. Have the most magnificent day. I wholeheartedly love you all so profoundly and tenderly.
You know there's no power, right?
No, I don't know that.
Okay. I don't know how long there hasn't been power. Close to like 40 minutes or so.
Okay. Well, it's nice that the Starlink has been on at least. I haven't done. We have no electricities.
on my first practice.
I just looked at those batteries yesterday, bro. I was like,
So you jinxed us.
yeah, the universe is like,
You said
you
it.
should buy batteries, bro. There's like 5 kilowatt hours with a 6 kilowatt hour solar inverter for 16,000 rand, which is like $800, $770 kind of vibe, which is not bad, right? 5 kilowatt hours is like enough to last us our night, and is enough storage to have like an overhead so we can power ourselves during the day for the most part.
Could I ask if you maybe have something crushed?
You want some weed?
Just a little, because the growls have been literally eating my.
Let's say it like that.
Bro.
Dude.
I said it soft enough so stream.
Yeah, John is gonna stop smoking weed and nicotine very soon, he told me. It's gonna go hard mode. Enjoy the Olympics, Nancy. I've got it on the background this weekend. Oh yeah, the Olympics are happening. Some Olympics basketball. Bless. Cheers to Mama Gaia. Cheers to all of you.
When did Olympics start?
It's on right now, apparently, yeah. Yeah, I heard that. I've seen those things. The scuffed intro. Can I just finish with my goodbye message?
Ask if we know where we can stream Olympics in general.
What?
I just wanted to know if you know where we can stream Olympics in general.
No, you're probably gonna have to like get DSTV or something. I wholeheartedly love you all, so profoundly and tenderly, luminously, joyously, enchantingly, marvelously, staggeringly, dazzlingly, overwhelmingly, me, and all of you. Oh, so inspiring and compassionate, uplifting and thoughtful, understanding, amazingly kind, radiant, and extraordinary friends who understand the profound impact of saving a life, of savoring life. Embrace the power you hold to make a difference, to protect and to cherish every precious moment. Thank you, dear friends, for loving this moment with me. Love y'all too. I'll see you friends again real soon. Goodbye, everybody.